showing us right from wrong, teaching us how to look after ourselves. Once we reach early adulthood, we are ready to leave home. We should have acquired enough knowledge to keep ourselves alive and stay healthy. Additionally, in our teens, we often rebel against our parents, and as we start to see them less and less as leaders. When this point comes, we will typically go to college, enter into the workplace, or perhaps go on an adventure of a lifetime. This creates a new set of challenges that we haven't encountered before, and we're not too sure how to deal with them. So we seek new leaders to show us how to behave, what to do, and what results to expect. In community, we face similar challenges. How to build, sustain, and cultivate positive relationships. We need tools, advice, counsel, leadership. The experience, education, and knowledge of others help steer us in the right direction and allows us to avoid pitfalls. John C. Maxwell stated that a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you a friend of mine who's going to introduce our guest speakers. And she's been a friend of mine for over 14 years, all the way from Pennsylvania. Well-educated, smart, and one who checks all my papers and documents to make sure that everything is grammatically correct and stated the proper way. Without further ado, I introduce to you my good friend, Aquila Burns.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I want everybody to understand, let's not look at the numbers, right? Because sometimes we come with the expectation that it's just going to be a crowd, but we have to be mindful that the word that's going to be said, the gifts that's going to be given, the tools that are going to be given, is for the ones that need it, right? It's for the ones that's present. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to say a couple of cosmetic things. There's a possibility. We have refreshments over on the side. The bathroom is upstairs to the left. The usual upstairs to the left. So please feel free to have to step out. There's one right here too. So I'm also there's one right outside the door. See, I missed out. So there's one right outside the door as well. But I just want to make sure we said that. So I am going to introduce our speakers for the hour. We are having a leadership symposium. So we have Mr. Dwayne Barnes. Mr. Dwayne Barnes. He is a native of Battle Creek, Michigan. Yeah. He is a native of Battle Creek, Michigan, currently residing in the D. Right. We have some fellow Detroiters in here. All right. He is the husband of Doria Barnes. We thank you for being present today. Did y'all see her photography skills over there, y'all? Did y'all see it? Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to get your number, ma'am. All right. He is the founder of Social Tech, which is a public policy think tank that focuses on the issues related to technology creation, consumption, and its impact in urban communities. Whew. I want him to tell us a little bit more about that. He prides himself in being a scholar and a gentleman. Ms. Doria, can we get an amen on that? Amen. All right. He currently serves as the Engagement Strategy and Urban Outreach Coordinator for the Center for Michigan and Bridge Magazine, which is a nonprofit and nonpartisan think and do tank. He has a degree, he has earned his degree, his master's degree in public administration from Oakland University. He has completed a fellowship with New Leaders Council of Detroit, and he currently serves on the executive board as the chair of recruitment and outreach. In addition to his education and professional accomplishments, Mr. Dwayne Barnes enjoys playing music, reading biographies, African American history, and spending quality time with his family. Without further ado, please welcome Dwayne Barnes.
hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, great, great. Well, first I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Like it was mentioned, my name is Dwayne, and that's my wife back there, Doria. And we're here just to kind of talk about a lot of things, but more specifically, flip to the next slide from me. Building sustainable community partnerships. And, you know, just as it was mentioned earlier, you know, in building, you have to start somewhere. So, you know, you might want to come in a room and see hundreds of people there, but that's the goal of building. You go from where you are to where you want to go. So when I see a room like this, and I see a lot of rooms like this, I do a lot of public engagement, and it starts with a seed, and you grow it, and you move from there. So we're going to talk about just, you know, my approach to building sustainable community partnerships. We go to the next slide, please. So a bit about me, and it was very well said before I got up here, so I'll run through it. Founder of an organization called Social Tech. And the most important part I want to convey about Social Tech is it's a nonpartisan tech policy think tank that looks at the creation, consumption, and impact of technology in urban communities. To me, the reason why this was such a life-changing call was because I was noticing how, you know, more specifically, urban communities are typically left behind in all measures. You know, if you look at income, if you look at joblessness, if you look at underemployment, if you look at all of these things, but we have a means by which is technology, to kind of solve some of those problems. So in short, I want to look at, or I look at, you know, how we use technology and the impact that it makes on our communities. The level by which we create that technology and use it in an entrepreneurial capacity. And, you know, just more than anything, you know, demystifying what it means to find yourself in a career that gives you, you know, opportunities. You know, technology is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And we, in urban communities, we drive technology through our consumption. We drive it through setting digital trends, and we do such a great job of it. But one thing we aren't doing very well, and that's the opportunity, is building wealth from using technology. So, you know, being a social scientist by trade, you know, anytime I see a problem, I want to bring people who have the wherewithal to answer those questions together and start to build from that. So we'll talk more about social tech, and I'll give you an opportunity to join our mailing list and all that stuff. So I got my bachelor's in African American Studies from Eastern Michigan University, a master's in public administration from Oakland University. I have over 10 years of building community partnerships. In 2018, I was a fellow with New Leaders Council Detroit. And right after my fellowship, I was elected recruitment chair on the executive board. So, you know, the work that I've done, the work that I continue to do, is not only a testament to the hard work and the determination it takes to build, but also when you align your skills and the things that you like with what you're good at, sometimes you get something good out of it. We go to the next slide here. All right, so my goals for today. 1, share my philosophy on building community partnerships. 2, assist in creating engagement strategies, or just the ideas that we'll use to kind of build those things. And lastly, which is kind of most important, to think about community partnerships in a different way. And we'll be able to do that here. So we can click to the next one. So my 3 kind of philosophy points for community engagement and building sustainable relationships are kind of threefold. 1, connect. 2, engage. 3, transcend. So first, let's talk about connecting a little bit. So, you know, in my work with social tech and with the Center for Michigan and all the other things that I do, the number one thing that I approach my work with is authenticity. I think that anytime that we're looking to create partnerships in the community, be it with organizations, be it with nonprofits, be it with businesses, be it with just the community that you want to do something, you want to bring them out to do something, you always have to start from a very authentic lens. And I mean that because, you know, typically when, you know, I come from the nonprofit sector, so in nonprofits you're kind of, you know, overworked, underpaid, you have 1,000 things you want to do, but not all the resources necessarily you need to do it. So when you build community partnerships, or a part of your approach to building community partnerships is saying, okay, what organizations are out there that, 1, can have a mutually beneficial relationship with me and my organization, 2, that maybe I can help them in a way that our time together otherwise would. And three, how can I build and facilitate this not only one-off thing? Come to this event, okay, that's fine. But when you can say, okay, you know what, let's partner on this thing, let's make it something that looks good to our grant-making partners and say, oh my God, you guys are working together. It builds your brand in the community, you're bringing their resources to the table with yours as well. So it's just all about being, authentic. And in doing that, so this is more of my philosophical side. There's a practical data way to do this. But just to think about, so let's say, for example, one thing that I do is I organize community meetings around specific topics. So, when I'm doing my stuff, it's around technology. When I'm working with the Center for Michigan and Bridge Magazine, it's around statewide public policy issues from a nonpartisan perspective. When I'm with New Leaders Council, it's looking for, the young millennial kind of up-and-comers that have something to do in the community. So, just thinking about that, that's three totally different constituents. So imagine if I went to, our tried and true core statewide public policy people, try to approach them the way I do the millennials. Or imagine if I went to, the young people and approach them the same way that I would approach, nonprofit executives. It would be totally different. So my intent and how I look to connect is always, changing. It's ever changing. And I'll get back to that. Let's go to engage. So after you've done your due diligence as far as what you want from your public engagement, then you go to the next level of saying, who do I actually want to get involved with? A part of my work with the Center for Michigan and Bridge is statewide. So I have a wider lens by which to kind of data mine to see, who would be partners, who would be good partners, who kind of fits the mold of who we want to talk to. So engagement, I think, is the most important part. And it starts kind of after working hours. 9 to 5, we all have something to do. We all go to conferences. We all kind of plan those things. But after you get off and you are, still active in your community, and this is what I found. Your second job, the second 9 to 5 is your social life. How you go from those meetings where you just, shaking someone's hand and saying, great to meet you, but actually sitting down and talking to them, figuring out, what projects they're working on. Understanding that, yeah, I do want something from you, but right now I want to make sure this is a good fit. So that only comes through engagement. That may say, well, we know that there is a meetup around a certain topic. Well, I'm going to go. Maybe not on behalf of any of my things that I do, but just to go meet people. Sometimes I go somewhere and I don't tell them I'm from NLC. I don't tell them I'm from Social Tech. I don't tell them any of this stuff. Because I'm interested in meeting people kind of where they are and kind of, doing my version of investigative work. So if you say, okay, we go to the happy hour or the meetup or whatever we're doing, I want to talk to people about what they're working on. I want to talk to people about, the goals that they have for themselves, their organization. You have a conversation long enough, they'll tell you, what they're happy about with their current, kind of situation, what they wish would change. And so, going into any kind of situation with them, you've kind of done some due diligence on the front end to say, okay, well, maybe this is the right organization. Maybe this is the right person at this organization to kind of to move forward with. So the biggest kind of takeaway in engage is after you set your philosophy on why you're doing this, how you want to kind of approach it, you get to your engagement saying, okay, well, let me test out a couple of those hypotheses. I thought I wanted to work with the United Way, or I thought I wanted to work with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, or I wanted to work with X, Y, and Z. Well, you find yourself in those areas, you meet those people, you make those contacts, and not just from a one-sided, well, we're having this event and we want you to do this. That's one thing, but there's another way to say, man, I really love what you guys are working on. Let me know how I can come through and help you guys with this. Or you see, online that they're having an event somewhere. You pop in, and while you've been very tactical about making your way to that event, so you can have that conversation with that executive or that outreach person, it comes across as just being, someone who's just active in the community. In 2017, for Bridge Magazine, I was doing this community journalism project, to where we were working with this organization called the DJC, which is the Detroit Journalism Cooperative. And what they were, and they still are, is a group of nonprofit news entities from the city of Detroit. They had a goal of telling community stories through their journalism. Now, typically, their work is kind of centered around kind of your straight up and down stuff. So they brought me in to say, okay, how do we get into communities in the city of Detroit to tell these stories that can run kind of counter to the narrative of what's going on in the city? And, you know, I will say that the project was successful, but I had to kind of show them that, you know, it's cool to go into a community or go into an organization knowing what you want. But I think it's very disingenuous to do it in a way where you go through, you pillage them for what you wanted from them. You wanted them to show up to an event, or you wanted them to give $50 for your year-end campaign. You got it from them, and now, you know, there's no follow-up. They have an event, you don't show up. It's just kind of, I got what I wanted from you, you know, that's over. And typically in building partnerships, that's what we see. So, you know, when you go through unknowing and try to start this new kind of engagement with someone, their wall is up because guess what? Somebody just came at them with the same pitch you gave them, asking for the same things you did, and once they got it from them, they got nothing else in return. So when they come back next year and say, remember we worked together on this great project, it was wonderful. No, I don't want to work with you this year. Because one, it was just disingenuous. Once you got what you wanted, it was over. So then, you know, they have a sphere of people, and they start to say, man, I worked with X, Y, and Z organization, and, you know, it left a really bad taste in my mouth. And so now in rooms that you're looking to go into, your reputation has kind of preceded you because you didn't take the engaged part seriously. You got what you wanted in the short term, but the long-term objective of having another ally in the community that you can work through and they can work through you, you miss that opportunity. And that happens so much. And I'll get more into kind of why as we get to our last kind of point here, and I'll bring it home to our next slide, please. Transcend. So after you've connected, that means, you know, again, you put yourself in your mind state, you set up your whys and your hows of what our programming will do and who we want to work with and where they are. Ooh, you got it. Let's connect. Engage. I put myself in the game. I put myself in the pot. The organizations that I thought I wanted to work with, I went to their events. I met their communications people. I bumped into their executives. I had an opportunity to take a survey, X, Y, Z, whatever you do. Once you get there, you ran a program together. This is where the magic happens. Okay, we did this program together. You felt good about it. I felt good about it. You know, I followed it up with a nice thank you or whatever, you know, comes along with that. We had coffee after the debrief. But then the next time you're out in the field, or even before then you start getting calls like, oh my God, I heard you just worked with X, Y, and Z. They said you were great. Bring that program in our way. Or we want to work with you. We want to do these things. And I think that's where the transcend moment happens. You want people to do something. You want it to be mutually beneficial. But once you get to the point where, okay, the program is over, the relationship is still good, we kind of know how each other works, it puts you in a position to work on larger scale projects together. So let's say, for example, you're running a fundraising campaign and your goal is to raise $10,000 over, you know, from Black Friday until New Year. And through the year, you've worked with organizations and you've done programming with them. You've left a really good taste in people's mouths. You were able to also use your resources to assist them in something that they were working on. End of the year comes, and instead of having to do your normal over-the-top end-of-year for the giving pitch, you already have people in the community that can vouch for you. You already have a track record of success running programs. So when you're looking to get, you know, what we all need to keep our work going is the funds, you can actually do that. And that's just one kind of example. Another example could be, and this is really big in the city of Detroit. When you're looking to engage in Detroit, a wall comes up first because everybody comes through the city and looks to pillage them for information. From the universities to the health organizations. If you've been anywhere near there in the election year, you know, there's just so much going on. But what happens is, you know, they go in those communities and they leave. So the 2 years later, when the next intern or somebody's looking to do the same amount of work, they have such a tough time doing it. And I had a very tough time when I first started, until, you know, and that's how I kind of worked on these connect, engage, and transcend kind of motto. You know, when I was going into, you know, my first community meetings or my first meetings with people that I didn't know, I didn't have any kind of mutual contacts there. I'm just cold calling pitching, basically. It were these kind of things that led to the success that I've had. Just with the Center for Michigan alone, we've run 3 5,000 people campaigns over half of the year. This year we finished a 10,000 people campaign, so we're used to, doing a lot of movement as far as interacting with people. And when you can leave that positive taste in people's mouths, you get some of those things that you can't see coming. Or let's say, we ran a couple really good events together. Now I'm applying to this grant, and now they're asking for people in the community who can vouch for my work. Oh man, I just worked with 12 organizations this year. They can all say they had a positive relationship with me. They can all say that what we've done was worth it. But then when I'm writing in my grant, okay, this organization can be a fiduciary with me because they see my work and we can work on things together. So that's how kind of transcend comes into motion. So first, when you just want to get one thing out of somebody, that's all you get out of it. But when you build that relationship in a way that's a bit more concrete and real, you can get more out of it. All right, we go to our next slide. Any questions so far? See a hand, yes?
My question would be, as an individual, kind of saying, I like to do public speaking as well. I like to engage with you. I like to speak with, how would I go about engaging them where I understand, like, what outside of speaking, what should I bring to the table? So to speak, should I bring a program that they can let them know, it's like, well, try this will benefit you, or I'm trying to reach the school. How would I go about doing that as far as engagement?
Absolutely. So I'll answer that kind of two ways. One, I think it's always good to have some kind of program or some kind of a means by which to get your point across that isn't just necessarily speaking to them all the time. I know I was told, by my friend in education, he said that the worst thing happens when people come to try to, find their way into the schools or anywhere to talk to kids is, they come and then something in their life changes and then they don't come anymore. The kids were excited, they wanted to do it, and next thing you know, you're missing. So I think one is just about, establishing a track record of, I want to do this first, before anything ever even happens, you know what I'm saying? This is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. I know I use social media. That's one thing, and I won't get all deep into my tech conversation today, but one thing that technology affords us the ability to is to tell our own stories. We can tell people what we're good at by just putting our phone in front of our face and telling people what you want to do, and then they'll respond to that. So I'm saying all that to say, one, it's always dope to have something that is unique to what you want to bring to the table. So, for example, I want to speak to children that come from adverse backgrounds that find themselves in the criminal justice system at a young age. The reason why a lot of our youngsters end up there is because they're either running with the wrong crowd or didn't have opportunities or it's out of necessity. So if you're coming at them with, well, this is the literacy program, and this program is important because we know that reading, exposing people to reading does this for them long term. Or you know what, I came up with this game, kind of like Monopoly, it's an economic game. It'll teach the youngsters financial literacy. So not only am I telling you, stay out of the streets and stay out of trouble, I'm giving you some skills along the way as well. And those are the things that differentiate, I think, the projects and the people that actually work and keep coming versus the ones that don't. Some come in and just say, okay, I just want to give them a speech and let them know, the sky's the limit, you can do it all, and that's great, and that's wonderful, that's some people's niche. But I think it's very unique when you can come with a service or a product that not only will give them, an anecdotal kind of solution, but one that's saying, okay, I want to help with literacy, I want to help with conflict resolution, I want to help with whatever kind of underlying issue that you think is important that's landing our young people in those situations. And I guess it's the catch-22 is, it's unfortunate that there's so many things that keep our young people tied up, but it gives us a lot of opportunity to say, well, I come from a background of literacy. So the way I look at solving the problem is through literacy. And that's your end. And so after you talk to them that first time and they're halfway interested, well, I'm coming back 3 times over the next 3 months. And every time I'm here, we're going to work on this financial literacy game. At the end of it, it gives you this. And then I can give you a certification that says you've done this. So just giving people an opportunity and giving them more than just that conversation. And then when you can sell that to the people who can kind of okay you to do it, they're like, oh, okay, what do you want to talk about financial literacy this year? And you're just the guy to do it. So that kind of thing. So just coming with something a little more nuanced. Yep.
Along the aspect of running a program, despite, or other than it being a program you love doing, what are some positive and whatever, to make sure that the
means by which to kind of evaluate, one, what the program is doing, and two, what are the metrics to kind of prove if it's doing that or not. I know one thing that I'm really big on, and this is kind of a tried and true kind of technique. You know, so when you're talking about programming, there's kind of operational stuff, there's more of your strategic stuff, and then there's more of your day-to-day, this is what we did, these are the numbers. And my approach to any kind of engagement, even here today, is saying, okay, you know, what is it I want to get across? And two, what can I do to ensure I get that across? So for example, let's go back to that literacy kind of program. We can say, okay, well, before we do anything else, we'll give the kids or whoever a kind of 3-question pretest. 1, do I like reading? 2, what's your favorite book? 3, over the weekends, do you read? Yes or no, whatever. You run the program or whatever. So let's say the program is, we're going to spend an hour or 2 hours each week with these children. And by the end of it, we want to see if us exposing them to books and us giving them time to read change their perspective on reading. So it's all about starting kind of with the end in mind. So if I'm saying, you know, back to the literacy idea, well, I want to say that my program, though it may not be true, it just may be your hypothesis. My program can move the needle 10% as it relates to young people's interest in reading. So along the way, everything I do will be trying to not necessarily get you to read the book, but just to get you to want to read the book. So at the end, when I say, okay, we asked at the beginning how many people read, how many people would read on the weekend. By the end of it, we asked those same questions, and 80% said they would read on the weekends, as opposed to, you know, the percent that said they wouldn't at the beginning. And then you have a test group to say, okay, we changed people's perception of wanting to read this book. How did we do it? Well, we did it by sitting in circles instead of sitting them in chairs. We did it by, there's no wrong answer, and that's what I try to give people. Whatever program you want to run, just come up with the metrics that you think you can hit with it, and that shows your success. I was affiliated with one program that said, we will measure a part of our success by how many sign-in sheets people complete by the end of it. Because at first the problem was, we would get them in there, but we couldn't tell who was there because they wouldn't sign a sign-in sheet. So, you know, after the 6-week program was over, by the end of it, they had X% signing them and said, man, we made an impact. How did we do it? And then you just come up with a way, well, we did it because we did X, Y, and Z. But just having, I'm basically saying, having some metrics that you know you can kind of achieve top of mind. So when you're running the program, you know, yeah, it's for the good of the program and the participants, but it's also a dual kind of thing to say, I'm actually making an impact. So when I want to do it again, or I want to seek funding for it, I can say, well, over a 6-month span, you know, 45% of the students responded in a more positive way to reading than when they started. Let me get a chance to do this again. And where in actuality that just may mean, when students came and they actually looked at the books and thought it was okay, they didn't read them, but at least it was a start. But because you define that metric, no one can tell you that isn't a solid metric point, because that was a part of what your goal was. But you can't, you know, eat the whole elephant in one. You can't get them to go from not reading at all to reading Moby Dick, you know, by the end of the program. But what you can do is move the needle on metrics that are a bit more attainable in your full goal to actually get them to actually read the book. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Any other questions, ideas? I also, you know, I'm never arrogant enough to think I know it all. So I always like to hear, you know, what successes have you had in building community partnerships? You know, what can I learn from you guys? A big part of the work that I do is to listen to people, and I think, you know, I will give my work at the Center for Michigan a lot of credit for that. So we go around the state and we hold community meetings and we ask Michigan residents, what's important to you? You know, as it relates to education, what's important to you? As it relates to jobs, what's important to you? And I think what's so avant-garde about that approach is you get a chance to hear from people about what's important to them and take that back and say, okay, man, I never thought about that. Or it's a way that I can use this to help further this cause. So, you know, we always get up and we love to talk, but I definitely love to hear about some successes you had or anything that you want to share with me before my time is up. Yes, and I see a hand, I'll get your next. Okay.
I'm trying to put together a program that doesn't exist because nobody cares. I deal with a lot of senior citizens, and they are not passionate. I find that dealing with senior citizens, letting me
similar thing. Nobody was young and black and wanted to build a technology think tank. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just wasn't there. And so I've been there, and I'm still kind of there in your same shoes. You know, I have several things I'll say, but I'll try to keep them short. One, I think that the beauty of it is it's not written yet. So there's no rules to say what it is or what it isn't. So what you see it as in your mind, however clear or however foggy that is, that's what it is right now. So my first kind of question was, man, that's amazing. I would wonder, you know, what is your ideal group of people who would help in this process? Like, would these be people who are former nurses? Would this be people who are just, you know, good-hearted citizens? Would it be something that, so that was kind of the first question. The second question off of that is, you know, would you want to, is there something you can do, and I'm sure it is, to help train these people once you get them to say, okay, once you get with these people, this is how you want to handle it, these are the practices I use, this is X, Y, and Z. So we start to, you know, start with kind of who would be our volunteers or our employees, and then from there, what can I do to, or what is out there for me to kind of help train them to get them used to this kind of work? And then from there, it would just be all about, and not it would just, because it's, you know, it's the steps, but the next step would be then to build a program. I would kind of build it like and my mother used to always have us do this when we were growing up in church. You know, my little brother would sing, and she would pray with him and give a word to him, all this stuff. And so just kind of a way to say, okay, how can I take these people who would be my volunteers, how can I get them used to, after we train them, used to building relationships with people that can be a bit one-sided, because after a while they will be gone. So just that kind of requisite piece there. And then I would say that the research part of it would come to say, you know, who's already running programs? Hospice kind of based programs that aren't your hospital. What organizations are out there? Is this a program, or is this an opportunity that can start by saying, you know what, we know you do hospice care. I have about 3 volunteers. We have a heart for this work. It's a calling for us. Would you mind if we would come and can we do X, Y, and Z? It might be, okay, well, we want to come and talk to them, or I want to read to them, or I want to play a game with this means by which of getting in the door with them and say, okay, this is how they do it. And then from there, build from there. So I would just say start with what you want your program to look like. Because nobody can tell you that's wrong, because it's not out there yet. Exactly. And then once you have that, it's just about selling it. Once you have an idea of what you want these people to do, and it sounds like you do, get them trained, and then just pitch people to say, okay, well, listen, I know you guys do hospice care anyway. We have a heart for this work. Allow for us to come in, or through a church or through any organization that you know that spend a lot of time with seniors. Let's try this program out. We wanted to bring over 6 months. We're going to stop by, you know, 4 times over that time and build relationships and do it that way. So it's unlimited. And I would love to sit down and talk to you more about that. Yeah, we could do it, Carter, and I'll be passing it out to everybody. Because that's when you're building something that isn't there, it's daunting because you can't Google it. You can't Google and say, how do you do this? And so you're stuck with just building it. But one thing I will say, in building, you know, social tech, there's always been a internal kind of pull that kept pulling me to where I should go next. When I was on the bench on the sideline, it was just an idea. It just was so overwhelming. But once I started to have those conversations, once I started to talk to people, and you know, they'll give you a lot of what they think you should do, but that kind of helps you figure out, no, that's not my approach, this is mine. So just keep building on that idea, keep talking to it, talking to people about it, write it out, even like, you know, even to say, you know, this is what the program looks like now. Fine. You know what I'm saying? This is what it looks like. It will be from A is this, Z is this, and this is how we evaluate it. And then just get people willing to say they will be a part of it, and that's half the battle right there. Yeah, so we'll definitely talk more about that. No, thank you. Any other thoughts, questions? There you go.
I want to add to what you were saying.
Oh, absolutely.
So it sounds like you've been in this area before, like you've talked to someone, you've been in somebody's life, helping transition. So I would say you've done it before. So what you're trying to do, you've done it already. So I would write down what you were doing, okay? So this is my journal. On day 1, this is what we did. This is what we talked about, this is what we thought, this is what we ate. Next day, what we did, this is how we did it, this is what I said. So then you are now having a blueprint on how to get to those next steps. Because you've taken those steps already.
Absolutely.
And I have worked down some different experiences. One of my favorite people who passed, Uncle Ross. Uncle Ross actually gave me a format for what is needed for citizens. He made it very known because he's a commander in service. And when he talked, I need this. This is what I need. And he made it very clear. I need you to, I'm calling you because you're the one to do it. So he kind of set a format for me when I'm dealing with senior citizens and know what to expect. It's not easy dealing with senior citizens.
Absolutely.
So you have to be a person of patience. You have to. And you have to have care beyond yourself to deal with these people. But the transitioning part I'm learning is more spiritual than anything that I could ever experience.
Absolutely.
Because they are really depending on you to really walk them through it. Whether they believe in God or not, they believe what you say.
Hey, I was just gonna say that, yep.
So that's what he kind of like taught me. He's like, it's almost like, I'm at the end of my life, I need you to talk to God for me. And I'm thinking, well, how do I put this in this program?
Right.
So, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure it out. And I pray, and I talk, and I write down a few notes and things that have happened. I'm like, I guess what you're saying is where I see the need, get the people to put the needs in one package.
You're the expert right now. You're the expert on this. You've been given the decree and the means by which to handle this. So anybody else that's coming to do the work with you, they're going to be looking at you for the expertise, and you have it. You've worked it. You know what works. You have an idea based on your experiences of what works. Sharing that with others helps them get the same rewards, and then they can tweak it a bit to work their way. And then it could just start to be, this is what I envision, just from what you were saying, and this is straight off the dome. But I envision, a quadrille of people who you can say, all right, no matter what that number is, you have a heart to want to step in that gap for people, one. Two, you can, you have the intellect and the ability to actually do it. And then three, most importantly, you're willing to do it and be consistent. So what I'll say is this: I think I'm a bit over my time here. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak to you today. Had my sign-in sheet, I left it in the car, I may go get it. I do want to share with you my cards. I'm a very open and honest guy. I love to talk, I love to assist, I love to help build. So if you're interested in getting more information about what I do, or information from me, I'll give you my card here. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.